Now, what can I say for an episode as great, as progressive, as interesting as anything? How can I describe, how can I just tell y'all in the most passive way that this episode just might be the best episode of Memoria, Freese. Is it wrong to want to say that even though all of the episodes in season 2 are spectacular, they have action, comedy, and darkness, a hint of darkness according to City of Lust. But now that we're done with that, we can roll into some new deep mud. And that's what we've done in this episode. In episode 11, Riker armies advance, and I would allow me to tell you that this episode is the best episode there's ever been. And let me explain why. Because this was great. Like I said 3 times already. This episode was truly great. Because just is. So I gotta kind of do my usual stuff where we start off, just recapping the previous episodes, just by the mood that they set. So, of course, I'm not going to do that episode per episode right now because I can't really think of what happened in the previous episodes. I mean, I do know what happened in the previous episodes, but not clearly. But to wrap it all up, to wrap up the summary of the moods in this season so far, been a little bit of slice of life, been a lot of action, been some twists, been some turns, lots of fights, which is basically action. A lot of story plots, just a lot of stuff. A lot of new characters, a lot of new relationships, a lot of new sort of maybe ideas, especially when it comes to this episode. But I think this episode really encapsulates all of season 2, if that makes sense. It sort of has everything. It has that slice of lifey feel. It has that romance, comedy feel, or romantic comedy feel. It has that hint of action feel. It has that plotty, that new plot, that new, not new plot, new arc feel. And it's just great. It's a great time. This episode genuinely was a great time. And if I don't get this character, I am going to cry. Because this character is the best character in the whole show. I mean, not really, but really. So, another thing that came with this episode that hasn't really happened in a lot of the episodes this season is that not only did we get a lot of new characters, but we learned about a lot of new things too. We learned about the past, with Zeus and I forget who Zeus and whatever. I forget the other. The 2 strongest familias in Horario before Loki Familia, before Memoria Freese, basically. And oh, please tell me I get Rika. That's hey, wait, don't I already have Aisha? No, I don't. I'll take it. Cool. Alright, I'm just gonna have to do that next week then. Yeah, we don't have a lot, we don't have a lot of gacha at all. Jeepus crime. What the hell is happening to this game? Right, so like I was saying, this episode also, you know, it brings a lot of new things to the table, and it's super cool. And then it brings some ideas back from, like, the first season, or, you know, questions that we've been wanting answered type deal. It just works cool. It's... I really can't stop talking. And I really can't stop talking about how good this episode is and not actually talk about the episode. So, the episode's title, episode 11, is Rika, Army's Advance. Which, you know, at the end of last review, I didn't remember. I think I only remembered the Army part and not the Rika Army's Advance. But now that I'm saying it now, now you know it. And the thing about Army's Advance is, I thought it was a very strange title to me, because I'm like, Army's Advance, okay, it must be like the Freya Familia advancing into the Ishtar's palace, but, you know, there's no point for that since all that stuff is done. And so I'm happy that it wasn't that, and it was something completely new, which I didn't even expect. So yeah. Without further ado, let us start the review of Danjon Ananeko Ohidowa. No, wait, no, that's not it. Of a Zimron try to pick up girls in a dungeon 2, episode 11, Rika, Army's Advance, right after we do the sub-story. Record holder returns! Ayo! Really now? They do. Right? That's great. That's awesome. But Aina doesn't seem too happy about it. Yeah. Oh. Answers?
Level 2到達から10日で中層に進出し、進出初日に18階層まで踏破。
Yeah. Yeah, she's just baffled.
同業者たちの洗礼を乗り越え、階層主と2度の交戦を経た上で勝利。
She just can't believe it. Yeah.
地上では上位派閥の襲撃を切り抜けた後、数の高に屈さずウォーゲームを制し、最後はレベル3の冒険者を1対1で真っ向から撃破する。
Yeah.
提出無理だね。
You can't. 'Right.
だよね。一応上層部には出すけど、また怒られるだろうな。
Yep. I mean, what else? How else can you word it? In the end, the guild decided to not publish Bell's record, and his growth was kept secret once again. Oh, man. Huh. Interesting. Alright, well, before I continue, or before I start, because that would be a pretty cool thing, to start the review. I will be right back. Alright, so I'm back. It's only been like 2 minutes. Anyway, let's start this. So the episode starts off with this, god giving out... Actually, no, it doesn't. Well, it starts off with this army advancing, under the command of a god named, Ares, aka Rika. I don't know, maybe it's the Rika Familia, maybe it's the Ares Familia. Yeah, I think it's the Ares Familia. And they're trying to attack Arario. And they keep on failing because Loki Familia is just pushing them back like nothing. And so the commander's really mad. He's really pissed off. He's like, can we just beat them? And his servant is like, no, we can't. It's impossible. Like, his soldiers keep reporting that, like all of the battalions and all the troops are getting destroyed. Like the second wave, the first wave, the 11th wave, like they're all getting destroyed. He's like, no, I hate this so much. Acting like a little brat. And then we cut to good old Bel Hestia, just Bel Hestia, Welf, Haruhime, and all that. And of course, Aisha. Aisha is saying her goodbyes to Haruhime, and telling Bel, like, oh, you're responsible for her. You know that, right? And Hestia is getting a little mad because Aisha was getting a little bit into Bel's face. And so then Aisha's like, okay, so remember that. You two get along then. I'll be leaving. And so then Aisha leaves with, I think it was Samira and, the two main prostitutes from the 12 prostitute warrior people. And the weird thing, I want to mention this just because this episode felt very weird to me in the beginning, because I have not seen daylight in this show for, like, forever. And so to see the characters' faces in sunlight just, like, blows my mind. Because it's not blows my mind, but it kind of freaks me out, because, like, the past 4 or 5 episodes have just been either dawn, dusk. No, wait, not dusk. Not dawn. No, yeah, dawn. It's either been dawn, dusk, or dark. It's literally all it's been. Like, just a minority, a very small minority of light. Of like sunlight, like natural sunlight, like midday, afternoon, evening type feel. Barely any in the last 5 episodes. So it was just super bizarre to me to see the characters in the light, in the sun, after... You get what I mean. But I eventually got over that a few minutes ago. A few minutes after the beginning. And, actually, before Aisha left with Samira and her other friend, she said to, Haruhime or Bel, someone of the 4 that were there, asked her, like, oh, where are you gonna go now? And Aisha said, we're gonna go ahead and go to Ares Amelia, to see if there's any good men that we can, and Belle's like, what's that? And that's when it cuts back to, of course, Ares Amelia absolutely failing at trying to invade Arario, beside them not even being close to Arario. And by the way, this is taking place outside of Arario, which I also thought was this was another part that I really liked about this episode, is that we finally went outside of Arario. Of course, we've been outside of Arario multiple times, whether it involves the war game or it involves Orient of the Arrow of the Orient, or whether it involves, I already forget. But you get my point. And so they're fighting, and Aisha explains to Belle and them what's going on and all that. And so she's like, all right, I'm gonna leave off, and she talks with her friends a bit, and then they just leave. And then Belle, Hestia, Haruhime, and Welf are just there, and then they go off to the mansion. Gates close behind them. Haruhime and Belle are just walking alongside each other, being adorable. And then I believe right then and there, the intro rolls in, trumpets and all, with all its beautiful glory that I haven't heard in a week. Because honestly, after episode 7 or 6, or maybe just 5, I completely stopped listening to the intro of this show. Because it was deleted. Because I downloaded a file for it, and that file got deleted because I needed to free some space on my phone. So yeah, I haven't listened to it in a long time. Just been listening to freaking Already Dead, but not Already Dead, the longer version of Already Dead. Tiny little something. Forget what it's called, sorry. Anyway, beside that, trumpets and all, intros in, and then right after the intro, I kind of just lose track of everything. No, so after the intro, we're actually presented, I believe, with Belle and Hermes. I'm like, Hermes, I'm so glad you're still on this show. And so Belle and Hermes are at a pub, drinking, or eating. I think they're just at I don't know where they are. They're somewhere. They're at a table, eating, sitting, whatever. And Hermes tells Belle, like, congrats, you were her hero, and Belle's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. And Hermes then said, Belle, do you know about the 3 great quests? And then he's like, no. And then Hermes goes on to explain, the explainer he is, explains that the 3 great quests were about defeating 3 dragons, 3 different gods. I forget what it particularly was, but it was basically 3 quests or 3 battles against a large creature of sorts, against 3 large creatures of sorts. And once defeated, once all of them are defeated, then you'll be a hero, basically, if that makes sense. The first 2 were defeated by Zeus and I forget the other Familia that was along with Zeus. The 2 stronger Familias before Loki Familia and Freya Familia. They took down the first 2, and then they ended up dying to the 3rd one. Because the 3rd one is very, very powerful. It's like a gigantic black dragon. Now, the thing that confused me is that I'm not sure if all these monsters, if all these bosses, Great Quest bossmen are inside the dungeon or outside of Arario. I didn't really clench onto that, so I'm probably gonna have to rewatch this episode at a later date to make sense of that. But yeah, we learned that, and Hermes was like, no one has ever beaten the 3rd quest, but we need a hero, and I mean, you could be our hero. Every adventurer has the right to be a hero, and I mean, you could defeat him. Of course, Hermes saying like, Bill, you gotta be the hero. I mean, if you're not the hero, then why are you alive? Basically what he was saying, but also not with all the extra words that I added. But yeah. And so then after that, Belle's like, And then I'm pretty sure, I hope, maybe, there are a few times, I will say this, there are a few times where we cut back and forth. That's another thing I liked about this episode, the cutting back and forth. I mean, that happens literally every episode, cutting back and forth to different, A, B, C plots in the episode. But there's a few times where it cuts back to, of course, Rika, Armies Advance, freaking Ares Familia. Cuts to a few of those later, but for right now, we then cut to Haruhime, who is washing or hanging everyone's clothes in the Familia, just doing laundry, wearing a maid outfit, which, I kind of liked, to be honest. It wasn't expected, but, for what it was cute in a sense, but, I don't know, I'm not I'm just being genuine here, I'm being honest, because I have the right to speak my own opinion, yep, I have the right to my own opinion, yep, and I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't really like the costume, but for what it was in the moment, I feel like it was appropriate. I feel like it was great. It's just a little stiff, I think. To me, through a visual standpoint, the maid outfit for Haruhime was a little bit stiff, and I mean that's no offense to of course the animators of the show, the creators of the show, even Fujino Omori, no offense to you, but it was just a little stiff to me, just to me. I'm probably just going crazy, and it wasn't stiff, but it just looked stiff to me. If that makes sense. It's like how can I describe it? Like, I'm pretty sure, I don't know. Like, when it comes to, wearing a tuxedo, if you've ever worn a tuxedo before, some tuxedos are really, flexible, real chill, real calm, but then there's some tuxedos that are, very military, you know what I mean? Very stiff, very, yeah, what I mean? And so that's how I kind of saw Haruhime's maid outfit, but, spending, 2 minutes and 30 seconds talking about a maid outfit really just shows that I really, really do care about this show. And Haruhime, because Haruhime is great. But anyway, while Haruhime is hanging clothes outside, sort of alongside the mansion in an alley of the mansion, walkway of the mansion, Belle passes by her, and she's like, "Oh, hi, Belle," and Belle's like, "Oh, hey, Haruhime. It must be difficult, for you having to hang clothes or wash clothes for 6 people." And she's like, "No, it's fine." And she's like, "No, it's easy." And he's like, "Here, let me help you." And then she's like, No, it's fine." And so then he grabs a piece of clothing from the basket with all the clothes in it, so then she can hang them up. And she's like, no, it's fine. And he's like, it's all right. I can help a little bit. I'm not doing anything. She's like, that's not it. And when Belle fully pulls out the piece of clothing he removed from the basket, it was good old panties, and and both of them were like, and then right after that, Hestia is just watching them outside the window, and Belle hides the panties behind his back, and then they both notice Hestia, and Hestia's like, "What are you two doing?" And then they're like, "Nothing." And then she's like, "I'm gonna make a rule for this, Amelia. that there can never be any contact between any male and female in the Familia. And then they're like, what? And Haruhime, you know, the rogue, not really a rogue, but the savage she is, sort of tries to sway her tail to sort of touch Belle, and then Hestia notices that, and Hestia's like, no tails either, and then she stops, and then we cut to the Familia, Hestia Familia, having a meeting. They're all in the little meeting place. Not parlor. I don't know. Place. Parlor, yeah. Parlor place in the mansion. And they have a little discussion, and well, Hestia, you know, the totally mature goddess she is like, there are no relationships allowed between Familia members ever. And then Lily's like, what? And you know, Makoto and Welf are pretty chill about it for a second, but we'll get back to them in a second. And then Belle's like, what? And then Haruhime, I forget. Yeah, she was. And so Haruhime was just silently standing there. And Lily was like, don't you think that's a little harsh? It was like, oh, don't you think that's a little harsh? And then she's like, no. And then they start fighting, which is, again, one of the reasons why I love this episode, because freaking they bicker. You know, that's one of the things I love about the whole show. Just because they bicker so much, and it's so funny, and I can't stop goddamn laughing. And so they bicker a little bit. And it gets to a point where, you know, the bickering's done, and, well, it gets to a point where the bickering stops because Welf and Makoto, who are like, so, do relationships, it's like, so if we can't have relationships with people in the Familia, does that mean that we can't have relationships with other gods out of the Familia? And then Hestia's like, no, you can do that. Do what you want. That's really cool. And then, like, before that, Welf was like, see, I'm really close to Hephaestus. And Makoto's like, I'm a little close to, Take. And they were, like, really shy about it. Really, they were, like, blushing. And I thought that was adorable. And Hestia's like, yeah, go do what you want. That's awesome. And Lily then said, actually Lily didn't say anything until a few minutes later, but Hestia was like, yeah, you can do that. But besides that, there's no touching allowed, no nothing in the Familia, or not no touching, but no relationships. Between the Familia members. And Lily's like, well, shouldn't that be with you? Like, wouldn't that include you too? And she's like, no, I'm the clan goddess, you know? I'm the top dog type deal. And I mean, I can sort of agree with you, Hestia, you know? I mean, you're not technically a part of the Familia. I mean, you are, because you are the main point of the Familia, but you're not an adventurer. You're not an adventurer. Adventurer. Yep, an adventurer. Whoa, we invented a new word. It's invent and adventurer. We're changing the game, ladies and gentlemen. We're changing the goddamn game. Anyway, so Hestia goes ahead and Hestia, I'm trying to think. Now I've lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. And at some point, Hestia then asked Belle, I think not at some point, it was right after her saying like, oh yeah, you guys can fall in love with gods, like a love between a child and a deity is beautiful. And then Hestia asked the question to Belle of, Belle, if a goddess were to tell you that she loved you, would you accept or refuse? Or would you just accept? And then Belle thought about it for a moment while Hestia was like at the edge of her goddamn seat, just waiting for an answer. And then Belle, the beautifully blind boy he is, says, I'd refuse. And that really makes Hestia mad. It really makes Hestia sad and mad and everything at the same time. And Lily's like, Hestia, are you okay? And then Hestia goes and zooms off out of the mansion. And Bella's just like he's sort of knocked out for like a second, I suppose. And Lily sort of wakes him up by saying, like, because Belle said, oh, I'd refuse because if, because mortals and gods can't have a relationship because gods are, or deities, whatever you want to call them, are to be respected, and all that. And everyone sort of like a little pissed off by that, especially Lily, despite her little fight with Hestia, for Belle. Lily's like, if you say that, then does the same thing apply for supporters? Now, the boy almost teared up. Seeing Hestia mad and sad is one thing, all right? But when he got when he got Lily sort of crying about, not crying, but sort of sad about the same thing as well, I almost teared up. I feel like in a timeline where I wasn't as resilient as I am, I could have teared up, but I didn't because I'm a strong, resilient boy. But anyway, from there, Hestia runs off, of course, like I said before, and Lily's like, does that apply to supporters? And Belle's like, he's speechless, and then Welf and Makoto are like, you gotta go after her, or like, how could you say that? And so then Belle says like, okay, I'm gonna go after her. So then Belle goes after her, and then I'm pretty sure, again, I'm not the best person in the world to be reviewing these episodes, but I am because I can. It then cuts back to good old Ares Amelia, where Ares has the brilliant idea. Now, I'm not sure if this is after or before the scene I just described, but Ares thinks it's the greatest idea in the goddamn universe to say, hey, it seems like we're not advancing Arario enough. So I think what I should do is I should capture a deity. And in that moment, I'm like, oh no. Like, I already knew, like, Hestia's run out. Hestia's out in Arario somewhere. Who, God knows where. I mean, we will know in a minute, once I get there. And Ares is gonna, freaking speed to Arario and capture her somehow. While Belle's trying to find her and he misses her, and then everything just falls from there. Like, I had that in my mind already, because, I kind of know things at this point. Kind of know how things work out here and there. I've watched too many anime, too many shows. My point is that led to him running to Arario and also telling his servant, or I forget what his name is called, or not commander, like second in command guy, to bring a few soldiers with them as well, and they're going to try to go into Arario and capture a deity. And then it cuts back to, of course they go there, and then it cuts back to Belle, who is then trying to find a way, trying to find Hestia, basically. And goes throughout Arario a little bit, and then ends up finding Mayak and Hephaestus at like a cafe or something. And at first I'm like, hey, Belle, you could like talk to them for a second, I feel like it'd be really cool if you could talk with them and, maybe you could get all this figured out and how to, sort of apologize to Hestia for making her sad and mad and everything. But no. I mean, he does. But then I'm like, but before he does, I'm like, no, but wait, you have to go save Hestia, before she's captured by Ares, or I forget what his name is. It's Twin Rika, freaking God of wait, hold on. It is God of War. That's great. That's stupendous. That's goddamn that's goddamn marvelous. Yeah, I know how to spell. I know how to speak. That's goddamn marvelous. God of War. Great. Yeah, he's a god of failure. Anyway, Belle ends up, having a conversation with Mayak and Hephaestus about the whole thing, because they notice that he has something on his mind. And so then they all have a little conversation about, is it wrong is it wrong for a deity and a mortal to sort of be in love? And Hephaestus and Mayak were explaining like, oh yeah, it's not wrong because, all deities love their children, in the sense of that they're a part of the familia. And then there's some deities that just genuinely love their children, not in like the familia way, but in the genuinely love way, in the love you get what I mean. And the genuinely lovingly, that makes no sense Englishly way. And so while Belle's learning all this from Mayak and Hephaestus, Hestia is just bawling like the little child she is. She's like she's in a part of Arario, like where there's some markets, there's some townhouses, but she's bawling. She's like, Belle, you stupid rabbit! Oh, I hate you so much. Why would you say that to me? You're an idiot. Freaking yelling at the top of her lungs. I'm surprised that Belle didn't even hear her. Honestly, I feel like that would have been an appropriate way for him to be led to her. But no, it wasn't. And eventually, that yelling and screaming and yipper-yapping was caught by a lady sort of not carrying a cart, but strolling a wooden cart, down the street, down the road, and said, hey, Hestia, come down here. And then Hestia's like, potato snack lady? Which apparently is her boss, so that's cool. Maybe. And so Hestia goes down, and the potato snack lady was like, hey, can you help get some potato snacks or farm some potatoes? And Hestia's like, but why don't you do it? And the potato snack lady is like, well, I have to go to the main street to be able to sell all these potatoes that I have right here, but I don't have enough, so I need you to go ahead and get some. And Hestia's like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm a goddess. But then she ends up doing it. Of course, around this time, Belle, Mayak, and Hephaestus have sort of ended their little conversation, or not around that time, but actually, I'll reintroduce that later. Pretend I never said that in that moment when I said that Maya, Hephaestus, and Bella ended their conversation. Not yet. I know I'm getting my reviews mixed up. At least this one is a bit more straightforward. Probably not. So right after Hestia takes the cart, goes ahead to go out of Arario because the potato snarks are out of Arario, and it's raining. In Arario. And she's trying to exit the gates with the cart, and she meets Ganesha, who's patrolling the gate for the day. And Ganesha's like, "Oh, hey, Hestia." And she's like, "Oh, hey, Ganesha." And after a minute or two, Ganesha allows Hestia through, because, they're real good friends, like all deities are. And from, in those 1 to 2 minutes that they sort of interact, guess who else is entering Arario at the same time as Hestia is leaving Arario? Cough, 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 I wonder who it is. Oh, maybe it's Ares, the god of war, the boy. If you don't get that reference, well, it's fine. Me saying boy. Oh god, it's a dead meme. It wasn't even a meme to begin with. Anyway, my point is that Ares is in line to get into Arario with his second-in-command guy and a few troops. And they're all in cloaks trying to hide. But, this guy just blows his cover no matter what, but he doesn't yet. And so Hestia goes ahead through the gate and passes by the line of people that are entering. And then she passes by Ares, and for a split second she passes by him, and then after that second, Hestia and Ares look at each other and they're like, "Hestia? Ares? What?" And then Ares is like, "Ha! I caught you!" And then frickin' does the backflip of the century. Or not the backflip of the century, but sort of just flips the wooden cart that Hestia is rolling. And Hestia then gets flung up in the air and then thrown into Ares's sack bag thing. Giant sack bag thing. Oh god. And captures her, basically, and him and his second-in-command and all of his little guards there, they sort of run off into the distance. And Ganesha doesn't notice all this until he sees that the wooden cart is still there. And so it's around this time that Bel, Mayak, and Hephaestus go ahead and end their little conversation. And Belle's like, "Well, what should I do first?" And then Mayak and Hephaestus are like, "Just tell her you're sorry, make up with Hestia, and then go from there." And so with that information, Belle then leaves them. He's like, "Thanks, guys," and they're like, "Okay, see you later." And then Belle walks up like this alleyway, this upward alleyway of stairs, and when he gets close to the top, he sees a lot of adventurers sort of running down the street. Well, not a lot, but just a few, like 5 or 6. And of those adventurers, Ace is there. And he's like, "Ace?" And then Ace notices him being like, saying, "You come too." Well, she's like, "Belle, Bedokun, or Belle, you come too." And so, Ace brings Belle to the gate, where, Loki Familia is, where good old Loki, not entire Loki Familia, but Loki and Finn are, and, they're around the cart, that Hestia was holding or pulling, and they were talking about how Hestia was captured. Because apparently Ganesha called in Loki Familia for it. And Aya said, I'm gonna have to go. And then Finn's like, or no, Loki's like, there's no point in saving that shrimp. Which is Loki. Well, not Loki, but it's Hestia, but it's Loki's attitude, and it's great. And then Ace is like, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna go. And Finn's like, alright, you can go, Ace, you can go. And I'm over here in my mind thinking, I'm like, Belle. Hestia is your goddess. If you don't go, I'm about to smack you upside that. And then Belle says, I'll go. And so then Belle goes, despite all warnings, because, he is the child of Hestia. And so Belle goes on this rescue mission with Aes, but before that, they're like, Finn is like, well, there's no way you're gonna be able to save her if you don't know the lands of Arario, because, the one advantage that the army has is that they know the lands of Arario, they know the landscape, whereas the people in the city don't know as much as they do. That makes sense. And so then Belle, or Hermes, sorry, not Belle, Hermes then comes in saying, I think I can help with that. Hermes being the know-it-all he is, or the helper-all he is. And he's like, I can help with that, and then reveals that Asfi can do it. And then Asfi is like, alright, I'm gonna have to help them. And so what she does is that she gets on like not a wyvern, I think it's like a giant I think it's a wyvern. She gets on a wyvern and she has like a little light in the sky, a little lamp that she flickers, trying to indicate Aes and Belle to run toward that light, and that light is where they're gonna end up finding Hestia and Ares and his guards and his second-in-command guy. But, of course, that whole scene, the scene, of course, where that happens, where Asfi's leading Belle and Hestia through the sky type deal, but while they're on the ground, is a really, really, really good scene. I can't stress it enough. Because Belle and Aes basically run through this ragged, rugged terrain, very rocky terrain, and it's raining, and, it's really, action-y, I suppose. It's very adventurous, it's very parkour-y, and, they're following the light, and I just think that's so cool. Again, another one of the reasons why I love this episode so much is because just all the different, we're literally talking about love in this episode between deities and mortals. We're talking about new things, of course, with that has to do with Ares Somalia and the war, and they're trying to advance into Arario to destroy Arario or whatever, even though they can't because they're weak. Of course, the three great trials that Hermes mentions, and then we have the showing of the mentioning of a lot of different deities in this episode, especially, or seeing deities. It's a lot. And we also see Haruhime and Aisha and just everyone, but not everyone, because that would be way too much. And then we also see, of course, what's happening now is just a lot of stuff. Action, parkour, great stuff. So anyway, they parkour through the rocky terrain, rugged terrain, whatever. And they end up catching up with Ares and all, Ares is 12 guards and whatever. I don't know why I always go to 12 guards, just with the 12 prostitutes. Sorry, just 12 is just a randomly, so it's a default number for me when it comes to that type of deal, but you get what I mean. Anyway, Aes and Belle then arrive at the little area where, of course, Ares and Hestia are, and, of course, his guards and second in command. And Aes goes ahead and swoops in, and they're like, oh my god, look, it's the Sword Princess! And then she starts attacking the guards, and then Ares is like, oh shoot. And then the second in command is like, he notices the star in the sky, or the shine in the sky, and sees this Sphi. And they start, well, the second in command then instructs the little group of guards to defeat them, or soldiers, to fire at a Sphi. But that's not possible because, of course, Aes is fighting them off a little bit. And Ares then gets down or something. He falls off or something. He gets off his horse or whatever. And he's like, all right, I'm about to fight. He's like, all right, Sword Princess, you and me, let's go. I'm about to fight you. And then she fights him with her sword and just shatters his sword. And he's like, ha ha ha, you're good, obviously, knowing that he's been defeated. And on his back is Hestia, and Hestia falls onto the little path. And then he's just defeated, basically. And just standing there, seeing his guards, not being surrounded by Aes, but his guards surrounding Aes, but she's defeating them. And then Bel gets around the guards and goes to save Hestia. And he's like, Hestia, and then Hestia's like, Bel, and then Ares realizes this, but it doesn't really do anything. And so when Bel goes to save Hestia from Ares, which isn't really in his care because he's not really paying attention to her until just the second, when Bel goes to save Hestia, Hestia is like, oh my god, Bel! And then she steps up, like she starts to stand up, but fails because she's technically still in the sack bag that she was thrown into, and she trips off into a deep, dark ravine of water. And Bel's like, oh shitster. And so then he leaps in to save Hestia, and Aes, seeing this, jumps in to save Bel and Hestia. And then she's like, Sword Princess. And then in that moment, we cut to the bottom of the watery ravine. And guess what happens? And guess what happens? And guess what happens? Trumpets and all! And the episode ends. The outro plays. And we're left with the great cliffhanger of the best episode of Memoria Freese Season 2. Honestly, I'm not joking. I think it's just because it may just be. This episode may just be my favorite episode for the fact of the matter that today is a big day for a lot of reasons, for a lot of different people. Because today is the day of the Area 51 raid, which is definitely just incredible that it's happening, according to, all the media outlets and, some live streams on YouTube, which people are saying are fake, and so maybe they are fake, but I'm pretty sure the event that is currently happening is not fake. And so that's pretty cool. And the other thing that happened today was, there's this show on Netflix that I really like a lot. I'm not sure if I mentioned it last year, because I'm pretty sure this show on Netflix came out last year. Around the time that, I was like, episode 100 or episode 200 of this series, called Disenchantment, which is by Matt Groening, I forget. Yeah, Groening. Same person that made Futurama and The Simpsons. Don't really watch The Simpsons. I watched all of Futurama. It was beautiful. Freaking loved Futurama, but it's been like 2 years since I watched Futurama on Netflix. But Matt Groening released Disenchantment last year, and I love Disenchantment. My parents did not love Disenchantment, And ever since Disenchantment Part 1 ended, I have been dying for more Disenchantment. And today, Disenchantment Part 2 came out! And so I've watched like the first 4 or 5 episodes. And so I'm pretty sure this episode was great because of the first 4 episodes of Part 2 of Disenchantment Part 2. But it might just be because it's a genuinely good episode. Or maybe I'm just having a genuinely good day. Because for the first time in like 3 reviews, I actually start the review off with a great, positive, mental attitude. Yeah, you heard me. I incorporated PMA into a rant. Shout out to Jacksepticeye. For just no reason at all. Anyway. Or, well, yeah, for the reason of PMA, because I learned PMA for him. Anyway, enough about that. This episode is great, and that's how it ends. Hestia, Aes, and Belle are all falling to their death. And after the outro, we, of course, get to see the title for the next episode, which is really great, I think. And that is called Song of Love, Goddess and Child. Which, I mean, obviously relates to Hestia and Belle. So, next episode's gonna definitely be an interesting one. I really like this arc they kind of got going on, especially with Ares Familia. I really like Ares Familia. They're real funny. Real comedic. And I really hope that, I mean, honestly, in the sake of just arcs and plots, I hope, they either just give up on trying to attack Arario and just join in with the fun of the show, or they actually go away for a while and become really strong, and then overtake Arario, and then everyone's going to have to face that. And then it'll be a real catastrophe. Not an Aes catastrophe, because of course it won't be caused by Aes, that it'll be caused by Ares. It's gonna be an Ares catastrophe. Oh man. But that's my point. I also hope that there's more succession on the idea of Belle, of course, becoming a hero in the sense of defeating the black giant dragon from the 3 quests, the 3 great quests. That there's more Haruhime, which is just a great character. Apparently Haruhime is a part of the Hestia Familia, so that's really cool. I don't know if I already figured that out a few episodes ago, but they mentioned in this episode, and I'm like, whoa, that's super cool. And apparently she's like a part of the outro, you know, because in the outro, like the very last frame of the outro, it's all of the children in the Hestia Familia walking in front of Hestia, or behind Hestia, as she's leading them, and Haruhime was edited at, so I thought that was real cute, and she's talking to Kodo, so it's just super cool to me. And so yeah, that's just how it is, and there's not much else to that. I just hope that, that, you know, this whole Rika God of War, Ares Familia arc, or whatever it's going to be, succeeds, only right after, of course, this love arc, it seems, between Belle and Hestia. That's what it's choking up to. So yeah, that's gonna be really interesting. I'm really interested for next episode. I have no theories about next episode. Just like I said last episode, last review, I really don't have any theories for next episode, except for that we're going to see Belle, Hestia, and Aes. But beside that, I have no clue. Hopefully some Ares Familia too, but that's all I have. I don't have any theories. I don't really know what's going to happen, what would happen. And even if I did, it seems like we're running out of time, even though there's no time limit on these episodes at this point. But yeah, this is it. We have done another hour review. I'm pretty sure it's been like 2 weeks since like we did an hour review, or maybe it was last week that we did an hour review. Forget when was the last time we did a perfect hour review. But anyway, that has been me for today. I'm sorry that I didn't do any work on the game. Of course, you know, can't really expect me to do anything while I'm ranting. And I think that these episodes, where I review the episodes of the show, are more to be listened as a podcast. I mean, that's how I would do it, honestly. If you don't do that, well, congrats. If you do, awesome. But yeah, I'm actually gonna have to make playlists for all the different things that happen in this series, especially when it comes to reviewing these episodes. So yeah, that's probably gonna be a thing, probably not gonna be a thing. Currently, I am uploading, updating the Memoria Freese playlist day by day. So not only, I didn't even mention this. This is episode 506, but it's technically 511 or 12. Because I'm gonna keep on making that reference since I know how many episodes are really in the playlist. And so yeah, there's a lot of episodes. Why am I not surprised? But yeah, thank y'all for watching this review, or listening to this review. Of course, I didn't do anything here except for the story. But yeah, next week, of course, we'll be covering the 12th episode, and then the week after that, we'll be covering the 13th episode, aka the final episode of the season, which is very, very sad because I want a third season already. You know, the season hasn't already ended, and I want a third season! But, you know, at least we have the second season to rewatch. Isn't that great? Of course, tomorrow I am going to be starting the rerun of one of the greatest events of the entire game. One of the only movies that this show has, because there's only one movie that this show has. Where I'm not going to do a 4-hour live stream finishing it all, and instead I am just going to do 2 levels per episode, which I haven't even exacted those amounts. I'm gonna have to do that. Anyway, once again, thank y'all for watching another episode of Dungeon Memoria Freese Y2 episode 459,506, aka 511 or 512. This has been moi, and sayonara.